BBC News with Sue Montgomery. France is recalling its ambassadors from Australia and the United States in what it describes as an exceptional decision. On Wednesday, Australia announced it was cancelling a multi-billion-dollar deal to buy French-designed conventional-powered submarines as part of a new security pact between Washington, Canberra and London. Barbara Plett-Usher reports.
The French Foreign Minister Jean-Yves Le Drian said recalling the envoys was an exceptional decision justified by the exceptional situation. He said he was acting at the request of the president. Paris was blindsided by Australia's move to scrap its contract for French conventional submarines and instead buy nuclear-powered vessels from the United States. Senior French diplomats have talked about a crisis in relations with not only Australia but the United States and accused Britain of opportunistic behaviour. A U.S. official said the White House regretted the withdrawal of the ambassador and would be engaged with France in the coming days to resolve their differences.
A top American general has confirmed that one of the last military operations in Afghanistan inadvertently killed an aid worker and 9 members of his family, 7 of them children. The head of U.S. Central Command, General Kenneth McKenzie, said a drone strike targeting a suspected car bomb attack on Kabul airport on the 29th of August was a tragic mistake. Gary O'Donoghue is in Washington.
In an attempt to set out the reasoning behind the strike, the general gave an account of how the intelligence suggested that a white Toyota Corolla was about to be used in an attack on Kabul airport. They also mistakenly interpreted the loading of water bottles into its boot as explosives. A secondary blast they had initially claimed as proof they had the right target turned out to be a propane gas tank in the compound of the victims. This is a major blow to the reputation of the US military, adding to the already significant dent in prestige that has come following the messy withdrawal from Afghanistan.
United Nations experts have issued a further blunt assessment about the global threat from climate change. After studying the carbon plans of more than 100 countries, they say the world is heading in the wrong direction. Here's David Schuchman.
Even with all the promises made so far, the global total of emissions is set to rise by as much as 16% by 2030. That's the opposite of what scientists say is needed. They calculate that emissions should be halved over that period if we're to avoid the worst impacts of higher temperatures. Part of the problem is that some of the biggest polluters, including China, India, Saudi Arabia and Turkey, have yet to update their climate plans, while Brazil, Mexico and Russia say they expect their emissions to grow rather than to shrink.
You're listening to the World News from the BBC. A second Dutch government minister has resigned in as many days, amid ongoing criticism over how the administration handled evacuations from Afghanistan. Defence Minister Anke Bijleveld's resignation follows that of the Foreign Minister on Thursday. Hundreds of people who'd worked for the Dutch government were left behind when Kabul fell to the Taliban. Brazil's Indigenous Affairs Agency has renewed by only 6 months a protection order on the ancestral lands of the Pirapcura tribe. There are only 2 known male members of the tribe who live in isolation in Mato Grosso state. Candice Piet reports.
Lawyers and activists working with the Pirapcura had hoped for at least another 3 years of protection until a final decision could be made on whether the land could be officially designated a tribal reservation. They have concerns that the short renewal is designed to gauge reaction before ending the protection altogether. The Pirapcura are struggling with armed invaders who are stripping their forests of wood and trying to drive them out. The invaders have become bolder under President Jair Bolsonaro, who repeatedly says reservations give land to too few people and block the expansion of mining and farming.
2 West African leaders have apparently failed to secure the release of the deposed Guinean president. The presidents of Ghana and Ivory Coast, Nana Akufo-Addo and Alassane Ouattara, travelled to Conakry after a meeting of the West African regional bloc ECOWAS. Mr Akufo-Addo said there had been a frank discussion with the leader of the military coup, but could not confirm whether he would follow ECOWAS's recommendation that civilian rule be restored within 6 months. The White House says President Biden will hold a vaccine summit on the sidelines of the UN General Assembly next week. The US, the EU and other Western countries have secured plentiful supplies, but little has reached the developing world. BBC News.